is learning more about the troubled background of Christian Hursey, the ex-boyfriend of 17-year-old Jada Sellers, who was gunned down in Southwest Baltimore last month.
And Hursey, the only suspect in Sellers' killing, took his own life last week. Investigator Mike Kellgren live at Milford Mill Academy, where Sellers was getting ready to begin her senior year. Mike.
Picture this: a teenage girl, a cheerleader, an honor student, vice president of her school student government, just wrapped up a summer trip with the boy she loved. Weeks later, she's fighting for her life in a hospital bed with gunshot wounds to her throat and stomach. And the person police say pulled the trigger was someone her own family had welcomed to their dinner table like a son. This is the story of Jada Sellers. And by the end of this video, you're going to understand why this case shook an entire community and why it's forcing people to ask hard questions about the cycles of violence we don't talk about enough. Before we go further, if you're new here, hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon, because Shadow Crime covers real cases like this one every single week. And if you walk away from this video without subscribing, you're going to miss the next story that hits just as hard. It genuinely helps this channel keep telling these stories the right way, with respect and with facts. Okay, let's get into it. It was just after midnight on July 31st in Southwest Baltimore. Police got a call about a shooting on Lyndhurst Street. When officers arrived, they found Jada in the living room of a home, bleeding from wounds to her throat and her abdomen. She'd been at a small gathering there. Witnesses say she'd been outside on the front porch talking with a young man just moments before. Surveillance cameras in the area caught the whole thing. As Jada tried to leave through the gate outside that house, the man opened fire. She was rushed to shock trauma in critical condition, and for the next 12 days, her family didn't leave that hospital. They camped out there. They prayed there. Jada's cousin later described it as a strange, heartbreaking kind of togetherness, because gathering people close was exactly what Jada always did in life, and somehow, even in that hospital room, she was still doing it. Now let's talk about who Jada actually was, because this isn't just a headline to us. She was the vice president of her school's Student Government Association, a National Honor Society member. She danced, she cheered, she worked at a local soul food spot. Teachers describe her as a small girl with an enormous personality, someone you could not meet and just forget. She loved making TikToks. She loved pulling people together. Her cosmetology teacher said Jada was head over heels for her boyfriend, going on little dates with him. No red flags in sight. They'd even just gone on a family cruise together not long before all this happened. And that's what makes what came next so hard to sit with.
And I'm Nikki Zizaz. Our other big story tonight, WJZ is learning more about the troubled background of Christian Hursey, the ex-boyfriend of 17-year-old Jada Sellers, who was gunned down in Southwest Baltimore last month.
And Hursey, the only suspect in Sellers' killing, took his own life last week. Investigator Mike Kellgren live at Milford Mill Academy, where Sellers was getting ready to begin her senior year. Mike.
Rick, Nikki, just a heartbreaking story. She was an honor student here, and she was beloved. This case has put a spotlight on domestic violence and access to guns. The death of 17-year-old Jada Sellers left many heartbroken, including her teachers at Milford Mill Academy.
Of course, our hearts are heavy, but what is most important is the impact that she's had on all of us.
The violence devastated her family. Police quickly developed Christian Hursey as the suspect, an 18-year-old she previously dated, knew, and trusted.
Not only did we know him, he sat at the table eating meals with his family. We know of his family and some of the challenges that their family has faced, and now those challenges have been met with our family.
Around 8:30 last Thursday night, a SWAT team moved closer to this home in Baltimore County, and that is when they heard a single gunshot. Christian Hursey, police say, had taken his own life. WJZ Investigates has learned Hursey had a traumatic past. When he was 4 years old, his father, Dominic, killed his mother, Shanika. Court records detail several protective orders Shanika filed against Dominic, saying she feared for her life, including one in 2009 demanding he stay away from the very address where their son died last week. The last protective order filed before her death stated, as he was being pulled off of me, he was saying, "I'm going to kill you." Soon after, he did.
Well, this is a very intense investigation.
A tragedy WJZ covered extensively in April 2017.
They did get back together, and then they separated again. This last separation seems to have been the final straw.
Prayer. Y'all have to pray for these children.
Court records say Dominic Hursey was captured on surveillance video breaking into the window of her home wearing a hockey mask. He shot her in the back of the head 3 times as she slept, then shot her boyfriend 12 times, killing him. And records show he tried to cover it up, even blaming one of Christian's siblings, claiming he went into daddy mode to hide the bullet casings to protect them. A veteran Baltimore County prosecutor called it a cold-blooded execution of 2 people. Those who work with domestic violence victims say violent patterns can repeat themselves. Dominic Hursey was found guilty and remains in prison.
It's horrific that this child who lost his own mother to gun violence is now repeating the cycle himself.
A relative of Christian Hursey told me today politely that they will never speak about this tragedy. Jada Sellers' viewing is scheduled for this Friday. Her funeral is set for Saturday.
12 days after that shooting, Jada lost her fight. She passed away at University of Maryland Medical Center, surrounded by the people who loved her most. Her family posted the news themselves. And if you've ever lost someone this way, you know there's no easy way to write those words. They simply said despite their best efforts and their prayers, they had to say goodbye to a daughter, a sister, a cousin, and a friend to many. Now here's where I want you to really lean in, because this is where the case takes a turn. At first, police had no suspect, no name, nothing public, just a grieving community and a lot of unanswered questions. But about a week after Jada died, investigators came forward with a name, and it was a name her own family recognized instantly. Christian, her ex-boyfriend, someone who wasn't a stranger, someone who had sat at their dinner table, someone Jada's parents had opened their home to, the way you'd welcome your own child. Court documents tell us that Jada and Christian had recently gone through a breakup and that there had been some kind of domestic incident right before it. Investigators say private surveillance footage showed the 2 of them together on that porch, talking right before the gunfire started. Witnesses who knew them both pointed detectives straight to him. Now think about that for a second. This wasn't some random act of violence from a stranger in the dark. This was somebody Jada trusted, somebody her family trusted. And that's a gut punch that a lot of true crime cases just don't have. It's the betrayal underneath the tragedy. Once police named him publicly, they issued a warrant charging him with first-degree murder. A reward went up $11,500 for any information leading to his arrest. Then federal agents got involved. The U.S. Marshal Service officially joined the search, calling him armed and dangerous, telling the public plainly, do not approach him, just call it in. For days, he was Baltimore's most wanted. And then, less than a week after being publicly named, it ended, not in a courtroom, not with an arrest. On the evening of August 20th, Baltimore Police's Homicide Unit and a Baltimore County SWAT team showed up to execute a search warrant at a home in Woodlawn, Maryland. The moment they stepped inside, they heard a single gunshot coming from a basement. They rushed down and found him there with a self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was pronounced dead at the scene. Now here's the part that genuinely stopped a lot of people in their tracks when it came out. When investigators started digging into his background, they found something almost impossible to believe. This wasn't the first time violence like this had touched his family. Years earlier, his own father had killed his mother in that very same house.
Right now at 5, a tragic ending developing tonight. The boyfriend of 17-year-old Jada Sellers, wanted in her homicide, commits suicide as police move in. Welcome in to the News at 5, everyone. I'm Rick Ritter.
And I'm Nikki Zizaza. Police say the 18-year-old fired a single gunshot as a SWAT team descended on a home in Woodlawn to serve a warrant.
And he was named as the sole suspect in the death of Sellers, an honor student who was gunned down last month and died after a brave fight at the hospital. WJZ investigator Mike Helgren live downtown tonight with new reaction from her heartbroken family. Mike, you've had a chance to speak to this family a couple of times over the past few weeks. What are they saying tonight?
Rick, Nikki, it has just been a nightmare for them, and they tell us that Jada Sellers' legacy will continue to live on after this moment and continue to inspire everyone. They thanked law enforcement and the countless members of the community, including Jada Sellers' many friends, for assisting in this investigation. Christian Hursey, the 18-year-old boyfriend wanted for killing 17-year-old honor student Jada Sellers, is dead in what Baltimore's police commissioner calls a tragic ending to an already tragic case. Police say he shot himself in the basement of a Woodlawn home just as officers served a warrant at 8:30 Thursday night. According to court documents, Hursey killed Sellers last month in a shooting outside a home near Edmondson Village that was caught on surveillance video. WJZ Investigates spoke to Sellers' cosmetology teacher, who was heartbroken over the death of the Milford Mills student.
School starts in a few days. So we have this heavy on our hearts, and we still have our children at Milford Mill who are grieving for her. So it's a long road that we all have to basically face when it comes to this tremendous loss.
Sellers' family tells WJZ Investigates they take little comfort in Hursey's death. Quote, while we are thankful that he is no longer able to hurt anyone else, we recognize that the factors of his life that led him to commit such a heinous act are still present in our society. We won't find full solace until all girls and women are safe from the sin and crime of interpersonal violence.
Did she ever talk about Christian or say she was seeing anybody, or do you remember anything about that?
Of course, like as far as I know, Christian and Jada, they were, Jada was very much for Christian. They were always going out on, little dates. The family was very welcoming to him. They just recently went on a cruise together. So it was a shock, when it came, because as far as we know, there were no red flags as far as I'm concerned, because she was very much in love and very much smitten by Christian.
Christian Hursey had a traumatic past. In 2017, his father, Dominic Hursey, shot and killed his mother as she slept after a tumultuous relationship where she filed numerous protective orders against him, saying she feared for her life.
Growing up and being exposed to violence can make one more likely to commit violence later in life.
Just last month, a young brother and sister were shot and killed in Baltimore County, police believe, by the sister's 16-year-old boyfriend.
1 in 3 teens in the United States will experience physical, sexual, or emotional abuse from a dating partner before adulthood. And so there's a lot of violence that's out there. It is a problem that all of us face here, and we need to be able to grapple with the fact that there are children who have access to a firearm and using it to kill their girlfriend.
A sobering statistic, and Baltimore's police commissioner noted 2 families are now grieving devastating losses of young people. And for anyone dealing with suicidal thoughts, you can always call 988 for help.
Let that sink in for a moment, because this is a detail that turned this case from tragic into something almost unbearably cyclical. Court records show his mother had filed protective orders against his father before, describing threats, describing violence, describing genuine fear for her life. She wrote that she was afraid he was going to kill her, and he did. That case actually made international headlines years ago, used as an example of how broken our systems can be when it comes to protecting victims of domestic abuse from armed partners. So the same house where his mother lost her life to a man who was supposed to love her became the same house where he took his own life after being accused of taking the life of a girl who loved him. Jada's family knew about his past. They knew he'd grown up with that kind of trauma. And that's part of why this hurts the way it does, because it wasn't ignorance. They opened their home to him anyway out of compassion, and it still ended like this. When police confirmed his death, the commissioner said something that I think sums up this entire case perfectly. He called it a tragic ending to an already tragic case, where 2 young people lost their lives to senseless gun violence. And Jada's family released their own statement afterward. They said his death brings little comfort. They said they're thankful he can't hurt anyone else, but that the conditions that led him to do something this heinous are still out there, still present, still affecting other families right now. So let's actually sit with that for a second, because I think it's the most important part of this whole story. How much of who we become is shaped by what we witness as children. Christian grew up surrounded by violence he never asked for, never chose, and clearly never got the help he needed to process. Does that explain what he did? Does it excuse it? Those are 2 very different questions, and I don't think there's a comfortable answer to either one. And what about Jada's family? They saw someone hurting, and they chose compassion. They let him in anyway. Was that the right call, even knowing how it ended? Or is this a warning about how far kindness can take you when the warning signs are buried that deep? I want to know what you think, genuinely. Drop your thoughts in the comments, because these are the conversations that matter more than the headlines ever will. If this story affected you the way it affected us putting it together, do me a favor. Hit subscribe, tap that bell icon so you don't miss what we cover next, and share this video with someone who needs to hear Jada's story. It's a small thing on your end, but it genuinely helps keep her name out there, and it helps this channel keep doing this work the right way. This has been Shadow Crime. Rest easy, Jada. We'll see you in the next one.